Welcome to Somaliland Investment Forum 2016 in Hargeisa. I would like to welcome everybody to the forum and thank you for your patience and your time attending this forum and coming all the way to Hargeisa from different places. Thank you very much for coming today.
Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Alhamdulillah wa salatu wa salamu ala Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. Ugu horeyn waxaan jeclaan lahaa inaan halkan uga mahad celiyo dhammaan ka soo qaybgalayaasha ay ka mid yihiin ganacsatada foreign investors ka inala jooga iyo marti sharafta kale halkan isugu timi haday tahay wasiirada xukuumadda iyo dhammaan ka soo qaybgalayaasha oo dhan. Ujeedada shirkan maalgashiga waxa uu yahay sidii aynu dib ugu qiimeyn lahayn inaynu wax iska weydiino dalkeenu maanta halkuu marayaa halkaynu u soconnaa waa maxay khayraadka dalkeena ku jira sidaynu uga wada faa'iidaysan karnaa sidee loo ogaan karaa arrimahaas oo dhan aynu una horumarin karnaa qaybaha private sectorska. Runtii waxaynu ugu muhiimsan waxa weeyaan had iyo jeer ganacsatadeenna waxay tahay waxa ugu muhiimsan ee waddanku ku dhisan yahay waana qaybta ugu muhiimsan ee tirsan yahay haddii ay tahay dhaqaalaha bulshada iyo dhaqaalaha waddanka oo dhan. Shirkeenna runtii wuxuu daaran yahay inaynu dardar gelino oo aynu ka faa'iidaysano fursadaha maalgashi ee waddankeena ku doogan ee ku jira taasoo runtii aan uga mahad celinayo ganacsatadeennu wax badan oo ay qabteen oo maanta uu ku dhisan yahay dhaqaalaha waddankeenu. Saad la socotaan ganacsiga iyo maalgashigu saad ka akhri doontaan buugga ay ku qoran tahay Somaliland Investment Opportunity Guide oo aad ka heli kartaan waxyaalo fara badan oo aad ka dheehan kartaan waxqabadkii wasaaradda iyo opportunity-da ku jira ee maalgashi. Runtii shirkani waxaan ka rajaynaynaa inuu ka soo baxo oo uu dhiirigeliyo inay ganacsatada iyo dowladda iyo maalgashiyaashu ay isugu yimaadaan platform lagu wada hadli karo oo dhiirigeliya opportunity-ga shaqo ee waddankeena yaala. Runtii waxaan kaloo ku dari lahaa waxa ugu muhiimsan waxa weeye had iyo jeer marka la maalgelinayo waddanka runtii waxaa dhacda mararka qaarkood in dadkii ka faa'iidaysan lahaa maalgashigu ay dhacdo inaanay u suuro gelin dadkii maxay runtii u baahnaayee muhiimka ahaa. Tusaale ahaan maalgashiga waxa ugu muhiimsan waxa weeyaan inay dadkii wax soo saarka lahaa sida beeraleydii xoolo dhaqatadii kalluunleydii kuwaas ay helaan macnaheedu waxa weeyaan first priority. taasi dabeetana inta badan had iyo jeer ma dhacdo because waxa weeyaan waxaanay u lahayn access inta badan saynu la soconno inay ka soo qayb galaan amba ay ka soo qayb galaan had iyo jeer meelaha ay opportunity ka jirto ee shaqo. Runtii waxaan aad iyo aad uga mahadnaqayaa halkan baanankeena waddanka runtii oo ay ka mid yihiin dahabshiil telesom iyo kuwa kale sidoo kale World Bank-ka inay investment fara badan waddanka ku siiyeen iyadoo runtii ay ka hirgashay waxyaalo fara badan maalgashiyaasha ay ka mid yihiin dahabshiil iyo telesom oo runtii iyagu fahmaya context-ka aynu leenahay iyo sida loo maalgeliyo dhaqaalaha dalka. Waxaan runtii mar labaad idinka mahadnaqayaa ka soo qaybgalkiina wacan iyadoo shirku inoo furan yahay oo ay noo joogaan khubaradii wasaaradaha oo dhan oo runtii wax badan nala wadaagi doonta iyo runtii wasaaraddeeda ganacsiga oo joogo team adag oo idinku qancin doona aan dhammaan macni waxaan halkan sugu nimi shirku u daaran yahay. And I think those are not speaking English, and I will give my own speech notes so they can understand better, I think. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Minister. And Abdul Masante Saad Wazir. And actually, we will do both Somali language and English for this forum. And next speaker will be an Ambassador Ali and Ismail Jirdeh, the Minister of National Planning and Development.
بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله رب العالمين والصلاة والسلام على أشرف المرسلين. كل هذا البدن وجمع صوت لجلين وحنا دوني أنا إير إذا كتبت رول كنا كلنا هيك وسارة دهانين program كنا كله Somaliland Investment Forum and investment مركز لا تسكو حي مركب كيف فكرة العقد مين لجليو العقد مش لجليو حكوه الرئية ضد لجليو هدان ضد لجليو العقد الحين مين لجليو وحلو واحد ترى سامجرت Somaliland Minister of National Planning and Development waxay mas'uul ka tahay marka horumarka sa development ku sheegayo marka waxa roolkan ku leenahay forumka waxa weeyaan markaanu joogno private sector ka iyo roolka ay ka ciyaareen national development ka as well as Somaliland Vision 2030 waxa kale oo in muhiima inaanu stress gareyno the role of human development in Somaliland. So if I may switch to speaking English for a minute, the role of Somaliland Minister of National Planning in this forum is mainly geared toward the participation of Somaliland private sector to national development. And currently, the upcoming Somaliland National Development Plan 2, 2017 to 22, will be represented. A private sector will have a major role, not only from the private sector as a local perspective, but also from the diaspora. So I will encourage businesses to communicate with the Ministry of National Planning so they will have a clear role of the National Development Plan for the coming 5 years. We want them to shape. And the first move that we did to include those private sector is a Dubai Well participation of, the sign of Dubai Well deal is the first major private sector investment in Somaliland, whether it's from diaspora or foreign investment, direct foreign investment in this country for the last 25 years. So I'm encouraging both private sector in Somaliland as well as the foreign investors to come here. And we are, as the government of Somaliland, we are ready to facilitate and host our friends to invest in this country. And that's the only way we can create international and global interest in this country. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Minister. And now I would like to welcome Lee Sorensen, Shuraako Director, to also say a few words in the welcome remarks. He don't speak Somali, he will speak in English. Okay.
I'm sorry I don't speak Somali. Saskia, I need the PowerPoint thing. Welcome everyone. Minister of Trade, Minister of Planning, thank you very much for coming. It's good to have you here. So why are we doing this forum? This forum was commissioned by the Somaliland Ministry of Trade and Investment and also by the private sector. For those of you who may be aware, Shuraako has hosted forums in Nairobi in early 2015, the Somali Investment Forum, and then recently in February, the Somali Renewable Energy Forum here in Hargeisa. And the ministry came to us and said we would like to partner together and host an investment forum. So that's the reason why we've done this. The topics we're going to be going over are organized in 3 tracks. We're going to be going through a finance track, a strategy track, and a governance track. So as we can start to identify how these things fit within the ecosystem and the needs, the opportunities within the Somaliland investment environment. So a couple of points to consider. According to the 2015 World Bank Somali Economic Update, investment accounted for 10% of GDP in Somaliland. Now, it's not the best GDP estimates because it's being updated now, but in 2012, that was 1.6 billion, which meant in 2012, that would have been about 160 million. Well, we know it's multiples of that now. In 2013, though, we also know that on a household survey that 31% of urban households, 16% of rural households are receiving remittances. We all know this, but how does this tie together? Investments coming on, but also there's still a dependency on some remits. Also, the Somaliland private sector accounts for 90% of the GDP, according to the National Development Plan 1. Some of the things that we produced for this forum, and we'll have a conversation in depth this afternoon, or later this morning, or early afternoon, is Shuraako conducted the Somali Diaspora Investor Survey. This was a survey that went out into 8 diaspora countries, 11 cities, doing focus groups, and then we also conducted an online survey that received around 950 plus respondents. Hold it. Okay, sorry. Okay. So we're going to go into some detail a little bit on diaspora interests, barriers, perceptions, and also recommendations on how to scale diaspora investment, which really is a proxy for all investment. But a couple of things to kind of like just show you where things can go. It's really hard for me to read. So these are just 5 or 6 of the questions that came out in the survey. The first one is, the question is, was it easy to acquire the capital to start my business, a project? Well, you see over here the ones that say strongly disagree, disagree. So people are saying in the responses that it wasn't easy to get my capital. The next one is investment for my business or project, investors were Somali. Overwhelmingly, they were. Then the next thing you get here is investors for my business or project were foreign. Well, they weren't that many foreign. The next one is information on available investment was easy to find. This is a clue to all of us. It was very hard to find information on investment. Not surprising either. The next one is I have the funds available to expand my business if I want to. Well, overwhelmingly, they're saying there aren't the funds available to start these businesses. But the next one is, in terms of optimism, I plan to expand my business. And overwhelmingly, they're saying, yes, we are planning to expand. So there's a mismatch. You have a demand of want to start businesses, and overwhelmingly, the money that's coming into business is coming from Somali sources, but it's not meeting the demand yet. So there's an opportunity here. That's just one of the things we'll talk about. So for those of you who know, we did the Renewable Energy Forum. The reason we did that was to look at investment wide in the investment forum context in Nairobi, and then sector specific. In that forum, we also took footage and produced a video to put out to the world to show some of the opportunity, because we know investment in energy is one of the opportunities. So we're going to go ahead and play this video for you quickly.
So anyway, hope you enjoyed that. The idea of that video is to give some kind of a picture to the world out there that a lot is going on here. There's an opportunity to invest. Yes, there are challenges. Yes, there are things to overcome, but they're being overcome. And so the time to get in is now. So anyway, without further delay, I'm going to turn it back over to Abdi, who's going to introduce our next address.
Thank you, Lee. And that beautiful voice was Saskia in the video, if you don't know. Thank you, Saskia. And first, actually, Minister and Ambassador Ali, Minister of Planning and National Development will excuse he has other meetings. So thank you, Minister. Thank you very much. Yeah. Next speaker, actually, I will introduce Dr. Saad, Minister, Somaliland Minister of Foreign Affairs and International Cooperation. And Dr. Saad.
Pardon me if some of the questions are obvious. But I will start with investment. I'm quite sure there are other people behind me who will be dealing with the same subjects. But what is investment in the first place? I think if you look up at the dictionary, you will find that investment is nothing more than about building or acquiring assets. And the next question is, why do we invest? We invest to earn a return on our current assets, or to increase the value of the assets. I'll come to the role of the government in all these. But then who invests? It's the private sector, the individuals, the companies, the groups like co-ops, and international companies. The public sector is an investor as well. In this conference, we will be mainly dealing with private investment. But the government is also one of the main investors in the economy. We have also the third sector investment. Most of the investment in this country today, particularly when it comes to infrastructure, roads, water systems, buildings, are invested, particularly public assets, are invested not so much by the private sector, nor by the government, but by the donors. So we have three types of investors here: the private, the public, and the not-for-profit. And the next question is, what do we invest in? We invest normally in physical assets: land, houses, farms, vehicles, roads, airports, and so on and so forth. We also invest in financial assets: bonds, shares, and so on. We also invest in human resources in the form of education. But then why should the government, I represent the government today, why am I here? Why should the government be interested in investment, is the question. What are the two main macroeconomic goals of every government? Is economic growth and employment. Governments are judged when it comes to economic performance on growth, on employment, and on inflation, normally. But growth comes from investment. Without investment, the economy cannot grow. And you cannot create employment without investment either. So both economic growth and employment depend on how much we invest. Hence the interest of the government in investment. But what can the government do to encourage investment? What can it do about investment in general? Well, the first thing the government can do is allocate more of its income for investment. Invest more of its income or revenue or budget. I would set a target of maybe 30% of the government income to go to real investment. The government can also create a conducive environment for investors, for the private investors, particularly the domestic investors. It can also promote foreign investment. It can also set standards and targets for donors to channel their donations and contributions towards investment. We can have a policy which says 50% of the aid we receive should go to investment in one form or another. The government can also develop the right regulatory environment for investment institutions and financial products, banks, co-ops, credit unions, insurance companies, financial markets. The government should also develop a strategic plan for the financial sector, because you cannot really talk about investment without talking about the financial sector. But investment is only one side of the equation. The other side of the equation is savings. You can't have investment without savings. There's a direct link between the two. As I said earlier, we cannot invest unless we save. And why do we need to save in the first place? We need to save for security. We need to make sure that just in case we need money, something happens, we have assets we can fall upon. Security, to ensure security. But we also save to build future income streams. We save also to increase the value of our assets. It's really a choice between consuming what you have today or consuming what you have tomorrow. But we also save because we are forced to. Sometimes, for example, tax is a form of forced saving. The government takes money from us and invests in schools. And sometimes government require, for example, all employees to set aside a certain amount of money from their income for pension. That's a forced investment. If you go to your pay slip, you will see from your gross income deducted tax, pension, insurance, social security. You have to pay all these in the form of savings, not because you wanted it, but because the government wanted you to do so. So we save also because we have to. But what can the government do to encourage savings? Because as we said, the more we save, the more we can invest. So here we have two sets of policies for the government. One is an investment policy, and one is the savings policy. Now, one of the drivers giving is culture. Different communities and different nations have different value. They put different value to savings. They have different propensity to save. Here in Somaliland, we save only about 10% of our income. That's a very low ratio rate of savings. We need to increase that. In the rest of the world, particularly in the high growth countries, the savings are between 30 and 50 sometimes. So the government should try to promote a culture of savings through the curriculum, through the media, and through other channels, which it can promote and reach the people. But the government can also create an environment which is conducive to savings. For example, as I said earlier, introduce forced savings, but also provide incentives for people to save. You can get tax exemption. If your income is a certain amount, the more you save of that income, the less tax you pay. That can be a policy which will encourage savings. But I think more importantly, we need to promote and encourage saving institutions. Again, financial institutions. Now finally, between investment and savings is the entrepreneur. So here you have really three important elements: the saving, the entrepreneur, and the investment. So we need also to make sure that we promote and develop an entrepreneurial culture in the country. Entrepreneurship is something which can be taught and learned, which can be encouraged as well. And an entrepreneur is really nothing more than those of us who see opportunities in where others don't see them, and who take risks which others shy away from. But what is the way then forward? Today we gather here, after 2 days we go our ways. What will be the outcome, the net result of this conference? I'm quite sure there are here in this conference a lot of people with brilliant ideas and a lot of people who would like to invest in those brilliant ideas. So at the end, hopefully, we will have real investment coming from potential investors. But I would also suggest to make the maximum use of this opportunity that we create some sort of a commission or a forum, not only limited to this occasion, but a commission which will take the outcome of this conference forward. And that commission should include the government, particularly the Ministry of Trade, the Chamber of Commerce, the Central Bank, financial institutions, the Habshil, Salama, Saad, academia, Shuraako, and perhaps the Ministry of Planning as well. And then that commission will be responsible for carrying forward the proposals and the suggestions that come from the floor during the course of this event. Thank you very much.